Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, an interview with the outgoing Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs. See what he had to say about his tenure at the VA. Plus, Senator Tim Kaine, chair for the Senate's Sea Power Subcommittee, talks about amphibious warships and the problems with pausing production of the vessels. And the Coast Guard wants an additional $1.5 billion. See what could be in store. Plus, members of the Pentagon's top brass head to the Hill to defend their latest budget requests and take questions from Congress. See what the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Defense Secretary had to say. And finally, what does it feel like to step in the ring at a Navy boxing championship? We talked to midshipmen who donned the gloves and took a swing. It's those stories and more in the latest in news and analysis from the Pentagon to the platoon, here on Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. Donald Remy has served as the Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs since 2021. During the former Army captain's time at the VA, the agency has worked on many consequential issues, from advancing an electronic medical records platform to the passage of the PACT Act. Military Times Capitol Hill Bureau Chief Leo Shane recently sat down with Deputy Secretary Remy to talk about his time in office. Here's what he had to say.
The new electronic medical records initiative, this is one that you were tasked with even before you were sworn in. Secretary was volunteering you to start working on that. It's been a tumultuous 2 years for that. The plan now is to restart this summer. That'll be after you're gone. But tell me where you think the modernization effort is now and whether or not it's getting back to where it needs to be.
Well, listen, I'm disappointed that we haven't been able to have a greater level of deployment, that we've had challenges in people, processes, and technology. But I know this. I know the team that's been working on this electronic health record modernization program has been working tirelessly. And I know that they're keenly focused on making sure that we have a system that is usable for our clinicians, that enhances outcomes for our veterans. And so we've stopped a couple of times. We've stopped because we recognize as a high reliability organization, when we get feedback from those who are providing care, we need to assess that feedback and we need to get better and move forward. I'm really confident that the team that we have in place, many of whom have been working on this for a very long time, some of whom are just coming to the project, are prepared and they're engaged and they're capable and they'll deliver success.
So do you feel confident that even as you're leaving here, that team is going to be able to convince the VA workforce that this is still the right path forward?
I think at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're improving outcomes for vets. That's what this is all about. Yes, our clinicians need a system that's usable, and we're going to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that this system is usable. We're going to hold the contractor accountable to make sure that the technology that they're providing is usable for those clinicians so that we can enhance those outcomes for the vets. So yes, to your question, the team that's in place has the tools, they have the focus, they understand the mission, and they're prepared to move forward with this project toward success.
How, as a veteran in America, how do you think you're viewed at this point? Obviously right now the lens is, your work at VA and the expectations, the responsibilities and everything, but we just passed the 20-year anniversary of the start of the Iraq War. We've had 10 years of folks using the GI Bill. We've had massive expansion of the PACT Act and benefits. Do you feel as a veteran in America, that the people understand your experience? Do you feel like the people have heard these stories now and this is part of it, or do you still feel like the military-civilian divide is an issue that the country needs to deal with?
You know, I think this is something that's pretty complicated because there are some people that don't understand the veteran experience, and those of us who are veterans understand it quite well. And we understand not just our experience, but the experience of our buddies who similarly served. And so it's on us to make sure we deliver the message about our experience so that the broader American population can have that same understanding, or at least an appreciation of what that means. It's funny, Leo, oftentimes you see these stories on television about, a hero or somebody who's engaged in activity to save anybody from a family to a cat, or whatever the circumstance might be. And more often than not, and this is just anecdotal, what I hear as they start to describe that person that answered the call is that person was a veteran, right? That's who the veteran is. The veteran is not a broken human being. The veteran is a person who actually has experiences that can help them help us be a better nation. And that's what we see, and that's who these veterans are, and that's why we owe it to them to serve them as well as they've served us. We owe it to them to make sure that they're aware of the benefits in health care that are available to them, and they can take advantage of that. Because this veteran population in America today is amazing, and as I said before, is one of the most diverse, I believe, veteran populations that we've ever seen. They are America.
Diversity, outreach, these have been major issues under Secretary McDonough. How's VA doing on that? I mean, you came in a little bit after some of those initiatives have started, but you've been involved in all of that. Is VA doing enough to welcome female veterans, minority veterans, veterans groups that have been historically kept a little to the side by the department?
Listen, we're working hard to make sure that we are serving all veterans. As the Secretary likes to say, I know you've heard him say it, not some veterans. The President empowered us, charged us even, to make sure we're serving all vets, not black vets or white vets or gay vets or straight vets, all vets. And so the effort is there, and the progress, I think, is palpable. It's evident. Look, we just changed our mission statement to reflect the inclusiveness that this administration and this agency has for those who have served our country. And that's widely regarded as demonstration of what's been going on here. Do we have everything right? No, Leo, we don't. Are we working hard to make sure that every vet feels like VA is for them? We absolutely are. I mean, if there's any vet out there who doesn't feel like they can be served by VA, I want to talk to them. Your community that listens to you, that reads you, they should know. We want them to come to VA. We're here to serve them. Whenever they served, wherever they served, we're here to make sure that the health care that they've earned, the benefits that they've earned are available to them and their survivors. If they're no longer with us, we want their families to come.
And in other news from around the military, the Pentagon's top leaders headed to Capitol Hill to face Congress over a range of issues. Senators and representatives grilled the head of the Joint Chiefs and Secretary of Defense on a host of topics in the annual face-off. Here are some of the topics they covered.
Given what we put our troops through in the past 2 years, it's no wonder that the Army missed its goal of 15,000 soldiers. Now, General, you know that is an entire division. We can't afford that. And it's getting worse. The Navy and Air Force will probably miss their numbers this year. Yet some of my colleagues claim that the real crisis is my hold on the promotion of 158 general flag officers. Mind you, these were promotions that the majority leader can bring to the floor at any time. Those same people claim expanding abortion will make our military stronger. I want to be clear on this. My hold has nothing to do with the Supreme Court's decision to the access of abortion. This is about not forcing the taxpayers of this country to fund abortion. That's been a bipartisan consensus for more than 40 years. The military has performed abortions for years. All were cases of rape, incest, and the harm to the mom. Over the past 40 years, I don't recall one military person ever complaining that we weren't performing enough abortions. Nor did the military raise the alarm that our service men and women were being placed in areas that had restrictive policies on abortion. As of 12 days ago, y'all got the American taxpayer on the hook to pay for travel and time off for elective abortions. And you did not make this with anybody in this room or Congress taking a vote.
On the issue of providing non-covered reproductive health care for our women, I would just say, Senator, almost 1 in 5 of our troops are women. And they don't get a chance to choose where they're stationed. So almost 80,000 of our women are stationed in places where they don't have access to non-covered reproductive health care. And I heard from our troops, I heard from our senior leaders, I heard from our chiefs and also our secretaries, and this policy is based on strong legal grounds. And it is not a law, it is a policy. And so, we obviously don't pass laws in the Department of Defense, but again, I assure you that we have great respect for this body, Congress, and we will do everything within our power to make sure that we continue to work with Congress.
And over in the Navy, the Blue Angels' first female fighter pilot recently made her historic debut. Lieutenant Amanda Lee was selected for the prestigious team in September 2022, making her the first female fighter pilot to earn a coveted spot on the team. And though she's the first female fighter pilot to fly for the Blues, she's the second female pilot to fly for the team. Marine Major Katie Higgins flew the team's C-130 Fat Albert for 2 seasons, starting in 2014. Next up, want to see a soldier control a robotic scout with his mind? The Australian Army recently released a video of its soldiers testing out a brain robotics interface in which troops use a specialized headset to turn their thoughts into basic instructions for a 4-legged drone. The result is a little wild.
This 4-way collaboration focused on how we could create a brain robotic interface that will allow a soldier, rather than operating an autonomous system with a command console, to operate the system using brain signals. What was created was a headset that a soldier could use using the HoloLens 2 model that had an AI decoder via Raspberry Pi that would translate brain signals into explainable instructions. What's so exciting about this technology is it has the opportunity to be used with a number of different autonomous systems. We conducted 2 short demonstrations today. The first demonstration showed a soldier operator commanding an autonomous system, being the Vision 60 Ghost robot, to a series of waypoints along the ground, and this was conducted successfully.
The potential of the project is actually very broad. At its core, it's translating brainwaves into zeros and ones, and that can be implemented into a number of different systems. It just happens that in this particular instance, we're translating it into control through a robot.
Controlling combat drones with our minds. It's all happening. And when we return, we hear from Senator Tim Kaine about ship production in the Navy and a recent fight over how it gets done. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia is a member of the Senate Subcommittee on Sea Power, and a big issue on his plate lately has been production of amphibious warships. With costs potentially rising to build San Antonio-class amphibious transport docks, also known as LPDs, the Pentagon asked for a halt in production, apparently against the will of Congress, the Marines, and Big Navy, according to Kaine. The senator spoke to Defense News and other outlets about the issue during a recent video call.
I'm wondering if you could address the Navy's argument of the need for a strategic pause in buying amphibious ships. Is it okay to take that pause to reassess the design and cost, or would it do too much harm to the industrial base? And additionally, beyond amphibious ships, I'm wondering if you could address kind of the aggregate overall levels of spending on ship and aircraft procurement in the budget request. Are you satisfied with that?
I think the Biden budget is a good budget. Now the Biden budget is the jump ball that starts the game. It's that starts the discussion, and we will dig into it obviously in significant detail as authorizers, and then the appropriators will have their own say over this. But I think it's a generally a good budget. I think it's very, very solid. Do we need a strategic pause? I've not had anybody, at the Navy level, CNO, Commandant, or SecNav tell me we need a strategic pause, and here's why. I think that's a message that's coming out of OSD or the OMB. I'm not hearing that when I talk to the Navy. So I think my read of the situation is there is unanimity and clarity between the CNO, SecNav, and Commandant that we need 31. Somebody upstairs is questioning that, but the Navy has done a good job of convincing me, and I suspect most of my colleagues on the committee, that 31 is the right number. So nobody has given me a reason why, after this has been debated, everybody says they're on the same page. There's a study that shows it, that we need a strategic pause now. I view that as that may be coming from upstairs, but nobody has yet explained it to me. So until somebody can explain it to me and convince me, I think we're all systems go for 31.
And now for defense dollars. The United States Coast Guard is asking lawmakers for $1.57 billion to rebuild its operational capability. The biggest item is for nearly $140 million for an HC-130 aircraft that would primarily be used for long-range surveillance. The Sea Service says it's 3 short of the 22 in its program of record. Next on the list is $113 million to outfit and assemble 4 MH-60T helicopters. The Coast Guard has been working on extending the lives of its fleet by swapping out hulls, electrical wiring, and some components to double their lives from 20,000 flight hours to 40,000 flight hours. The Coast Guard's unfunded priorities list is meant to highlight critical efforts not included in the regular budget request. To see more details on the list, visit defensenews.com. We'll be right back after a quick break. When we return, we learn about the details of checking accounts with our personal finance expert. Stay tuned. Welcome back. On this edition of Money Minute, Navy Federal Credit Union personal finance expert Jeanette Mack gives you the details of common features of checking accounts.
You may not think of it, but your checking account can be an excellent money management tool. With it, you can easily deposit and withdraw funds, pay bills, and even transfer money to another person, account, or a financial institution. Even better is how it lets you know where your money is going every day. You can track it from anywhere, anytime through online and mobile banking. Some of the best features include mobile check deposits, alerts and notifications, paperless statements, bill pay, and more. So when you're looking for a checking account, find one that makes sense for you and the way you spend. Also, look for one that has low to no fees, ATM fee rebates, low minimum balances, and best of all, one that earns interest. It makes good dollars and cents to earn money on your money. Once you've got your account, use it to track your expenses, see where you can cut some spending, maybe open a savings account to deposit that newfound extra money, and start banking like a seasoned pro.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. To get more coverage of military and defense topics, point your heads-up display at Army, Navy, Air Force, and MarineCorpsTimes.com, as well as DefenseNews.com. And to be the most up-to-date mortarman in the squad, sign up for our early bird brief for stories sent to your inbox each weekday. It's also an audio. Check out the podcast version out now. And if social media is where you get your headlines, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. When we come back, more from the recent Naval Academy Brigade Boxing Championship. Don't go away. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. Stepping into the boxing ring can be an intimidating experience. But these midshipmen from the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, found the courage to test themselves on the canvas. Following bouts at the recent Brigade Boxing Championship, we spoke to several midshipmen about what the experience was like. At this year's Naval Academy Brigade Boxing Championship, the 82nd annual, contenders new and returning entered the ring to vie for a chance to qualify for the National Collegiate Boxing Championship. All incoming plebes are introduced to boxing in their first year, and for some, it becomes a passion. Their parents may feel differently.
My parents at first did not really love that I was boxing, just because, to them it's like, oh, you're gonna get hit in the head, it's gonna ruin your body. But now, like, they saw the fight tonight, and I know I'm gonna get texts from them or calls saying that they're so proud of me and they love it, and they know that I love it, so they love it too.
My parents do know that I box. They didn't really support it at first, but once they started seeing some of my fights, they became pretty content with it, and they love that I do it.
They didn't know until I sent them photos of me winning semifinals, and after that, they were like, well, you're probably gonna get hurt, please, be careful, prayers and everything. And honestly, now that they see me, not competing anymore, I think they feel a lot better. But certainly in the moment, I can tell nervous, really anxious about, my health. So yeah, I think they'll feel better once knowing that it's over.
My family, my girlfriend, everybody knows I box, and they're really supportive. Maybe they're not the biggest fans of seeing me get hit, but they know it's what keeps me going here, so they're really happy to support me in that aspect.
For the boxers, it's a chance to put themselves to the test.
Stepping in the ring is the biggest thing for me because I lose all my nerves. All the nervousness turns into adrenaline, and I'm ready to go. It's, before that where I'm nervous and I'm shaky, but once I step into the ring, I know it's time to go. Once the bell goes off, I'm ready, I'm locked in.
When I first stepped into the ring tonight, everything around me kind of disappeared. I just had my coaches whispering out of my corner, and I just looked at my opponent and pushed everything to the side, and I just got ready to get at it.
So my bout tonight, it was a little fast. I wish I would have, dragged it out a little bit, but you know what they say when, you leave it all out there, because any second, I could have been on the opposite side of a knockout. So it was pretty quick, but, that's just all the hard work from the last year and a half paying off. Morning and evening practice, sometimes 3 days. So, I'm just happy to be here in this moment, and this is a great feeling. My first brigade championship, getting it as a sophomore is pretty cool. So, I'm just happy. I'm happy.
The winners advance to regionals. For the rest, this is their last boxing event of the year.
So tonight, I'd say it's a lesson learned kind of night. I fought it out with my opponent, and he did really good, and I'd say we both did pretty good, and he gave it a tough fight, and so did I, and he ended up coming out on top, but it's not a loss, it's not a lesson learned, so get better from here.
Tonight was really a surprise to me. I was focusing on different tactics, kind of wargaming within myself, how I'm gonna score points and be able to evade any sort of big hits that my opponent was gonna have. But it didn't work out too well. After the first major hit, I was knocked down, and unfortunately the ref had called the game. So it's all right though. I mean, it was a great bout. I'm sure everyone had a good time watching, and yeah, we're good to go.
And that's all we have time for this week. Please visit us on militarytimes.com and defensenews.com for more coverage. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.